Hello beautiful beings and welcome back to my channel Soul Journey. My name is Beck and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the evolution of your personal self-love practice. So recently let's go back. Before I got into my spiritual journey, I was heading in the direction of the fashion industry. Which I still love very much. If any of you follow me on my other social media, you'll know I love my style, I love fashion, all this. But unlike now, I was in it 100% in the sense of I was on my way to going to fashion styling school. I was a legit hoarder, like actually, and that's a story for another time. But I had closets of clothing and shoes and makeup and pocketbooks and just everything. And when I mean like, when I moved to Australia and got rid of like 80% of my stuff, I probably got rid of, I don't know, 15 trash bags worth, like big black trash bags worth of clothing, and I donated them and things like that. And I still have way too much clothing. But I did pare it down quite a bit. And yeah, I always had makeup on. I, shaved all the time. I was really into fashion. And as I moved into my spiritual practice, I evolved. And I don't mean like evolved as in like, if you evolve, you won't like makeup and fashion. I don't mean that. I mean like who I was as a person evolved. And I still love fashion and makeup, and it kind of like ebbed and flowed. Is that the correct term? Ebb and flowed? Whatever. And I've always loved dancing. I have, there's just things that always brought a lot of joy to my life. And over the course of, the last 7 years or so, what that has looked like has evolved. And in the last 2 years, last like several, but in the last 2 years, I've really dealt with a lot of depression and I've dealt with a lot of anxiety. And so over the years, my self-love practice has evolved and also fallen apart in different ways because of where I was at. And I think we often get caught up in this idea of like what self-love means and what self-love looks like. And I know all of us don't have this, but I think it's really important to talk about because I think even those of us who understand that a self-love practice can evolve, sometimes we really don't understand fully what that means. And in the last several months, I'm noticing that my self-love practice is really evolving because I'm evolving. And so in the last 2 years, I've stopped wearing makeup, and that was because that's what felt best to me. I was really working through, I shaved my head 2 years ago. For those of you who've been following me on my channel for a while, I've shaved my head 2 years ago, and I really wasn't wearing makeup, and that was really self-loving because the reason I shaved my head was because I wanted to explore the idea of being beautiful without the normal feminine things, because my hair has always been a really big thing for me. It's always felt like it didn't do what I wanted, and I always felt unattractive with it and stuff. So I was like, I'm going to shave my head and I'm going to learn how to be beautiful without hair. So I did it very, very consciously. And so after shaving my head, I was growing my armpit hair out at the time. I started dating my current partner. I wasn't wearing that much makeup, just a little bit of face paint, honestly. And my style got more like, if it wasn't comfortable, it wasn't what I was wearing. And I still liked wearing, fun clothes, but my outfits and clothing really kind of got to a place where it was more about the comfort than the style. And again, at the time, this was hugely important for my self-love practice because I didn't feel like I had the energy to do it. And I was really exploring what it meant to be naturally me and feeling comfortable in that space. And then I think the biggest thing, ironically, was not shaving my head. Was in the last like 6-7 months, I grew out all of my body hair. So my leg hair has grown out, everything. And at first I was a little uncomfortable with it, but I promised myself that I wouldn't shave my legs until it didn't faze me, because I wanted to explore what it meant to love. If my body was naturally growing it, I wanted to love it. I wanted to accept it. I wanted to see it as something that was natural and beautiful. Like, I didn't have to be like, this is my sexiest version, but I kind of wanted to, because I wanted to explore what it meant to be truly me and really love myself, right? And obviously, I'm talking more about the physical aspects. This can apply to any aspect of yourself. And I also find that what feels best to us can often have to do with the shadows we're dealing with. So a serious part of your self-love practice also has to be integrating in the wounds that could be attracting or wanting things that aren't necessarily the most healthy. But again, that's a different topic. In the last 2 years, I've kind of like created this version of myself. And I say created this version because, our souls are here to experience. Our souls are here to embrace being a human. And so every time we evolve, every time we explore something new, it is a new version of us, because it is a filter we're still exploring through, because it's the filter of being human and the filter of being this human. So aside from being pure source energy, this is a version of us. And that doesn't mean we're being inauthentic. It just means that we're exploring what it means to be, this aspect of us, this projection of us. And I really kind of got very comfortable in that. And then recently, I've been following Shane Dawson for years and years and years and years. And he's very big on YouTube. He's a very interesting person. He's gone through a lot of evolution himself, but most people know who he is. And he's been doing these series. And over the last year, he has created this new makeup palette called the Conspiracy Palette. And so because of that, and I have followed him for years, I have been following this journey. And I feel like in the last 6 months or so, and even more recently, I've been exploring what it is I've let go of that hasn't necessarily served me in the long run, right? So I haven't been dancing a lot. And honestly, I didn't feel like I had the energy to. And recently I've been like, why haven't I been dancing? This has been something that I have nurtured myself with since I was literally like able to walk. And I've always loved fashion. And I've always loved being, putting together outfits, and it's a real art for me. And I've always loved makeup, and I've always been very creative and very theatrical. And I just feel like I'd lost that aspect of myself. And as much as it was something that was a progression for me, as I was watching these videos with Shane making this palette, it's vegan, so I'm going to do an unboxing of that when I get it. I'm so freaking excited. I started feeling that like part of me going, oh, I like this. I like this aspect of me. I want to put makeup on. I want to be theatrical. I want to, be this creative aspect of myself that I'd really kind of let go of. And it was interesting because there was another part of me that was like, that's superficial. We don't do that. Love yourself naturally, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm kind of coming into this new space of learning about how the self-love practice can evolve, and that can even be bringing in things from your past that you might have let go of for a little while. And so, I'm finding this newfound passion for like the simple things and the more aesthetic things. And as a Taurus, as a Virgo, these are things that I really love doing. I love the yumminess of the physical. I love the experience of the physical. Being tactile, being really embodied is a part of being an earth sign. And it's something that when I was younger, it wasn't like a conscious engagement. It was more of a, oh, this excites me, or I'm obsessed with this, or whatever. And so I'm noticing as I'm coming into it now, I'm 27, and I'm coming into this new phase of, what does it mean to be embodied? And I'm finding this very interesting, because if you follow me on my other social media platforms, you'll know that I'm being, really getting into the earth energy, and I'm really coming into my body and embodiment and learning how to not be so disassociated from the physical. And then I'm finding that this is evolving into me wanting to do makeup again. It's making me want to be in fashion again. It's making me want to, get out and travel. It's making me want to, engage with plant life and all these things that I just really did not associate with myself anymore. And some things I never associated with myself. But I'm noticing, because like consciousness goes in a cycle, right? Even though I'm coming back into these old things that I kind of let go of, I'm coming into it with a whole new awareness and a whole new presence. And I'm noticing that I want to be more creative. And that includes makeup and hair and things like that. And it's funny, because I think the reason I didn't enjoy it before was because it was surfacey. There wasn't a conscious presence in it. And so it felt empty. Even though I really enjoyed it, it felt like there was an emptiness to it, which spirituality gave me. But now I'm re-engaging in these things through the eye of spirituality, through the eye of the physical is the spiritual, and understanding that the physical in this incarnation is one of the most intense spiritual practices, because it's integrating the physical into the spiritual and not rejecting the physical. Because I think so many people who are on their spiritual path reject the physical because they're like, oh, the spirit's out there. Like, I want to be, source energy. I want to be an extraterrestrial. And as much as that's a beautiful experience and something we will all definitely experience again, we chose to be here. And so our spiritual practice in this life, in this projection, has to greatly incorporate the physical. In fact, the physical is the spiritual right now. That this is our spiritual experience, is being in this physical, tactile experience. Like, that's the point. So it's important to remember that the physical has to do with these expressions, these physical expressions, the creation of things. And now this is going to look different for everyone. And this is going to look different for everyone depending on what part of the journey they're on, depending on where they're at. So my personal experience right now is definitely going to be different from yours, or it could be the same. You could be really, identifying with what I'm saying. But I'm just really exploring what it means to be self-loving in the moment, and understanding that what's self-loving today may be different tomorrow. Like, for instance, 2 years ago, not wearing makeup, shaving my head, and growing out all my body hair, or even in the last year, was the most self-loving, because I was learning how to engage in that aspect of myself. And now I'm coming into a very creative time, a very expressive time, and I feel like I'm recoming alive after being in this cocoon of the natural. I'm coming into the space of, who am I? I want to express myself through color and texture and art. And I want that to be a part of my body. And I want that to be a part of my experience. And I want to go and feel those things. And I want to do photo shoots. And I want to do videos and creative things. And so now what's the most self-loving is to be expressive. And so remember that at each moment, different things are going to be self-loving. So one day it's drinking the juice, and the next day it's eating the piece of cake. And what's really important for this practice is understanding yourself. And how we understand ourselves is by integrating the wounds and getting to know ourselves, and really stepping into the, what would someone who loved themselves do? That's one of my favorite practices from one of my favorite teachers, Teal Swan, is anytime you make a decision, you close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and go, what would someone who loves themselves do? And the first thought that comes to your mind, that's your heart space going, oh, it's this. And it'll be really neutral. And it's important to go with that and not like what your brain says like 5 seconds later, because your brain is going to explain away why that's not self-loving, right? And that's an amazing, amazing practice. And I highly recommend her video. It's called Self-Love, the Fast Track to Enlightenment, or something like that. Fast Track to Enlightenment. If you type in Teal Swan with that, you'll find it. And it is an amazing practice that will change your life. And so it's amazing how one day it will say, no, go hang out with that person, or buy the thing. And the next day it'll say, don't buy the thing. And it's about coming into alignment with what actually feels best to you in that day. And so the most important part of your self-love practice is to get to know yourself and feel out where you're at. And self-love is really about engaging with yourself and creating a relationship with yourself. And so just like when you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't really understand you and is trying to love you in a certain way, and you're like, yeah, but that's not really what I need, you can also do that with yourself. And so integration of the wounded aspects, doing your shadow work and knowing yourself is crucial for knowing what is self-loving on a particular day or in a particular year or a particular decade. So remember that what might feel self-loving today or this year, if you're noticing that it doesn't feel good, and this could be a yoga practice, this could be literally anything that gives you excitement, that gives you nourishment, don't get too attached to your self-love practice, because as you evolve, it will also evolve. And I find that some people get stuck in what it means to be loving for themselves. So for you, it might be the opposite. You might be, decked out in makeup and all this stuff, and you go, oh God, I need to go in a different direction. Or it might mean, living more sustainably, or it means maybe indulging yourself a little more consciously. And the point is that self-love needs to be conscious. It needs to be mindful, and it needs to align with your beliefs, your morals, and all of those things. Those are really, really important. And again, those things need to be checked every so often through shadow work and stuff. So it's an ever-evolving atmosphere and ecosystem. And that's how you're going to find your self-love practice. So some years it might be pulling an oracle card every day. And then self-love may be not making yourself be so rigid and being in a little bit of flow. So get to know yourself. Your relationship with yourself is the self-love practice. It's about getting to know yourself. It's about understanding yourself and understanding that your needs will shift and change depending on how healed you are, and what you're doing with your life. It could look very, very different. So anyway, I encourage you to explore your self-love practice. And is it working for you? Or are you kind of getting in a rut and you just feel like it should, people jokingly say the self-love practice is, eating the extra donut and taking a bath every night. That may not be your self-love practice. Your self-love practice may be working out and pushing yourself past your comfort zone. That may be your self-love practice because that's what gives you excitement. That's what gives you drive, and that's going to feel really good. And then some days it is the bath and the extra nap, right? So I encourage you to explore your current self-love practice. Is it working for you? Does it feel good? Does it feel like you're expanding and evolving? Does it feel like it's really giving you the excitement and the nourishment you need? Or is it the story you have around it and you're like, this should be nourishing me, so it is. Check your self-love practice and work on your shadow work. This is an ever-evolving thing. There is no end. It's always an evolution. So I encourage you down in the comments to share what your current self-love practice is, or just one self-love thing that you do, or maybe it's something you did today for yourself that was different. Whatever it is, share a part of your self-love practice today in the comments, because I'd love to see what you're doing, and maybe we can inspire each other to explore new self-love practices. And definitely give this a like if it was helpful. And if you want to see more of this in the future, obviously click the subscribe button and the notification bell, because sometimes YouTube doesn't say when we post. But if your self-love practice is not being bombarded by social media, don't do that. I don't have any notifications on because I like to be present and I know I get distracted. So for me, self-love is not being notified, but maybe these videos are helpful for you and that's important to you. So do whatever feels good. And if you'd like to check out my other social media, the links to that are in the description and down below, along with my Etsy site where you can get personal readings from me if you would like. I am a professional tarot reader if you're new here to the channel. And stay tuned for Friday. It's Friday or Saturday. The big launch for Shane Dawson's palettes on Friday. It might be like, cray cray. It'll probably be in the afternoon. But stay tuned for Friday and Saturday for the collective reading for the collective consciousness of planet Earth, and other videos like this: self-love, veganism, sustainability, talking with spirit, channeling, all the good stuff. Love you guys so much. Thank you for joining me here today. You guys are amazing. You're beautiful. And you're doing a good job. Many blessings, you guys. Namaste. And don't forget, it is all about the soul journey.